Very good. We are making our own chart. We've got the month of the Aviv and each different date we will put in later. We currently have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Nigh to Jerusalem, nigh to Jerusalem, nigh to Jerusalem. Excuse me, ascending to Jerusalem. And then John is 6 days before the Passover. We know that this is a triumphal entry into Bethany. He then walked. He could have taken that same donkey, but this triumphal entry was into Bethany. It says he had been to Bethphage, and all this was done to fulfill 3/4 of Zechariah 9:9 prophecy. He did not say, Matthew does not quote the Jerusalem, oh, shout daughters of Jerusalem. He does not mention that because that hasn't happened yet until John way down here. But he got two disciples for two donkeys and rode it into Bethany, having already been to Bethphage. We see that these guys speaking the exact same words for these 10 verses and these 8 verses, speaking the exact same words, is the exact same place. It sounds like Bethphage, and it turns out it is because we know he had already been to, and all this was done. And then they diverge. These two guys speak exactly the same. They diverge here. And entering into Jerusalem, when he had looked around about all things, and when eventide was come, he went out to Bethany with the 12 for the Bethany triumphal entry the next day. Or that night. That's why they threw the coats in their way, so that because it was nighttime, the donkey could, who knows? But it aligns. So we see that he overturns the tables here and goes to Bethany, because this says now in the morning. So we know this day and that day are a lock. From Bethany on his way to Jerusalem again, he overturned the tables here. On his way to Jerusalem, he sees a fig tree, the leaves only, curses it, the leaves. The next day, somebody remarks on it. Verse 20 starts out, now it says that, and the disciples remarked, and when the disciples saw it, we know this is another day because when the disciples saw it, it continues, Peter remarked, oh, look, it's dried up by the roots. Here we see leaves, here he remarks on the roots. We know that's the next day because he continues here. He says the mountain moving advice. He then goes into the temple, and by what authority they ask him, and he says to them, by what authority was John's baptism? Here, the same thing. Peter remarks, it's dried up by the roots. He enters into the temple, speaks about a tree, a fig tree, or any tree, he says. You know, when you see it, it's summer's nigh. They ask him by what authority, and he says to them, by what authority was John's baptism? What we're going to go over today is that Luke aligns with that, verses 20 all the way through 22:2. By what authority they went to him, and he said, by what authority John's baptism. These 3 days is what we're going to show you today, but I'm saying we've already gone over this. We know this is another day because here, this 11:20 starts out, now in the morning, or on the morrow, I think. Peter remarked, oh, look, it's dried up by the roots. We know that now in the morrow is completely another day from this, when he went into Jerusalem and overthrew the money changers again. Here he overthrew the money changers, stayed and healed many. The Pharisees says were marveled at what. In fact, here 21:17. We went over this. Here's 21:17. Nigh to Jerusalem. He had been to Bethphage. He's at the Mount of Olives. So this is a Bethany triumphal entry. 2 disciples, two donkeys for the ass, the colt. Them, put the coats on them. All this was done. All what? He got 3/4 of Zechariah 9:9 prophecy. They said, Hosanna in the highest. Blessed comes the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. He enters into the temple. He cast out all that sold and bought, but he overthrew the tables of the money chambers. He did not overthrow, and he overthrew the seats of those that sold doves, because the tables of those that sold doves had doves on them. And he said, it is written, my house shall be a house of prayer, and you have made it a den of thieves. And he stayed and healed the blind and lame. And the chief scribes and Pharisees saw what the wonderful things, the healing of the blind, and the children crying, Hosanna, blessed is he. And they said, and Jesus says, oh, haven't you heard out of the mouths of babes is scripture perfected? And he left and lodged in Bethany. This whole 21:17 can go right here. 21:17, okay. And then we are what we just went over, the last what we just went over was Mark and Luke speaking the exact same words, and we can read it here. Luke. Let me get this just right. And when he had thus spoken, he went before, ascending to Jerusalem. That's Luke 29:28. Now Mark 11:1. And when they came to Jerusalem, unto Bethphage and Bethany, at the Mount of Olives, he sent forth two of his disciples. Luke. And it came to pass, when he was come nigh to Bethphage and Bethany, at the mount called the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples. Mark. And saying unto them, Go ye your way into the village over against you. Luke 18:30. Saying, Go ye into the village over against you, in the which at your entering ye shall find a colt tied. Mark 11:2. And as soon as ye be entered into it, ye shall find there a colt tied wherein no man never sat. Luke 19:30. Whereon yet never man sat. Loose him and bring him hither. Mark 11:2. Loose him and bring him. Yeah, and then Luke 19:31. And if any man ask you, why do ye loose him? Mark 11:3. And if any man say unto you, why do ye this? Say ye that the Lord hath need of him. Luke 19:31. Thus shall ye say unto him, because the Lord hath need of him. Mark 11:34. 11:3 plus. This is like 11:3 and then 11:3 plus. And straightway he will send him hither. And they went their way and found the colt tied by the door without, in a place where two places met. Luke 19:32. And they that were sent went their way and found even as he had said unto them. Mark 11:4. And they loose him. Luke 19:33. And as they were loosing the colt, Mark 11:5. And certain of them that stood there said unto them, What do ye loosen the colt? Luke 19:33. The owners thereof said unto them, Why loose ye the colt? Mark 11:6. And they said unto them, even as Jesus had commanded, and they let them go. Luke 19:34. And they said, The Lord hath need of him. Mark 11:7. And they brought the colt to Jesus. Luke 19:35. And they brought him to Jesus. And Mark 11:7. And cast their garments on him. Luke 19:35. They cast their garments upon the colt. And he, Mark 11:7, and he sat upon him. Luke 19:35. And they set Jesus thereon. Mark 11:8. And many spread their garments in the way. Goodness, finally, Luke 19:36. And as he went, they spread their clothes in the way. Mark 11:8-10. And others cut down branches from the trees and strawed them in the way. 9. And they that went before, and they that followed, cried, saying, Hosanna, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. 10. Blessed be the kingdom of our father David, that cometh in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. There's no mention of Genesis 49:11 or Zechariah 9:9 in Mark and Luke. There is no. Matthew says all this was done to fulfill Zechariah 9:9. And Mark and Luke make no mention of that. So that brings us to, this is a lock. All these 5 days are a lock. Witness, 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 witness. Mark 11:11. Now, when he had looked round about upon all things, and when eventide has come, okay, anything after that is going to be that day. And when eventide was come, he went out to Bethany with the 12. Should be what happens on this day. At nighttime, he goes to Bethany. This verse says, and on the morrow. Now, it's so that's that morrow. That's why there's a blank space here. And then 11, Mark and Luke, we just read. This is Luke in black and Mark in pink, so to speak. We just read how they are the exact same words, so that's a lock on those are the exact same days, and they diverge here. This we went over, the overturning of the tables. He weeps before the city, and then these guys say, and the whole city was moved, saying, "Who is this? Jesus, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee." That aligns with the same day. Regardless, we're going over today. In fact, this should just be a summary up until this point, and then I'll make a quick video on this. This is going to be the exact same. No, this is going to be at the temple, talking about the destruction of the temple. Luke is talking about the destruction of the temple in eschatology. Mark and Matthew, it sounds like the same words, but you'll see that here it says before all things. Well, it might say after. One says before and one says after all these things. You got to take note of that on what's going on. Like this one says synagogues and this doesn't, or vice versa. But anyway, we'll go over that real quick. Because this says, Jesus, by what authority is John's baptism? Jesus says, by what authority is the baptism? Jesus says, by what authority is the baptism? And they couldn't respond. And then he goes on to speak for 6 chapters. They couldn't respond, and he goes on to speak for 4 chapters. They couldn't respond, and he goes on to speak for 2 chapters. And then I'll show you, and we know that the continuation of 26:5 to 26, I've divided up. This is the answer already. We have not gone over this. There's going to be additional here and here. We're not going over that yet. I need to show you that this all aligns to begin with. Okay, but then we'll go over here. So I'll just call this a summary, and then we'll go over real quick that these 3 are the exact same words. Blessings.